Alex coming at you today. So why start at the top? Why start selling the C level, the CEO, the CFO, the CXO, the COO, and what kind of timelines will it create for you in your new sales sequence in 2022?
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sales Chatter. Today, we've got our dear friend, Catherine Hollingsworth, former president of Revenue Connections, 30-year sales vet in selling the C-level. And we're going to talk about why go to the top, especially, like here we are, we're filming this in January 14th, 9:01 a.m., 2022. And there are going to be more higher level individuals involving themselves in supply chain this year than ever before. And I mean, you don't have to go far at all to see how supply chains are crippling companies, how supply chains are creating companies that were very profitable into companies that are losing money, and how supply chains are causing so many different layers of friction in companies. DJ, you and I have talked about it numerous times, and I feel like it's beating a dead horse, but there are companies out there spending millions of dollars a month that was never in their transportation budget. And I personally feel companies have realized how important a structured and seamless supply chain is. And I don't mean, the Walmarts of the world, the Amazons of the world. Like these people rely on their supply chains to fulfill their distribution everywhere. I'm talking about the smaller guys, the ones that typically you and I would contact when we're selling, right?
Yes.
And to me, this is the big thing is these smaller companies, which make up, the reality is they make up, I don't know what the number is, 85% of the economy is these smaller companies, as opposed to, the carriers, the Amazons, the Home Depots, the Walmarts, and all that, right?
Yeah.
And I think these smaller companies, smaller, they're still hundreds of millions into the billions of dollars,
Yeah.
but these smaller companies, the CEOs, the COOs, the CFOs, all these people are starting to put a lot more focus on supply chain. And that was the reason Catherine's been on.
That's the hot word, man. That's the hot word. Gosh.
And I really don't want this session, this conversation to focus on supply chain, because I truly believe as a sales rep this year, if you sell at a higher level, and let's just baseline this right away, because I think we got to 8 Mile the hell out of this right away.
I agree.
The fact is, if you start with a CEO, it doesn't mean you're mitigating the traffic manager. I don't believe that. And I believe we got to go as high up as we can, and we filter our way down. And I'll explain to you guys what I mean by that. So Catherine and I are in the middle of selling CEOs. And we've got a lot of CEOs saying, you know what, I'm interested, very interested. This is the person you need to speak to, because they have a structure in their thing, right, Catherine? I mean, this is the way most companies work. But having the CEO involved gives it another layer of what I'm finding, and what I've always found since I've taken Catherine's course almost decade and a half ago, was that people pay more attention when they're higher up. Say, hey, listen, have a conversation with this person. Meetings happen so much faster. Timelines get crunched in 50% of the time usually, because it's like, I'm interested, have a look. If you're interested, let's have a conversation. And today, especially, so this is how I'm kind of layering this for everybody as the intro. And I know it's a very long intro, a 4-minute intro here, but the reality is, if you layer that, things happen faster. So if the CEO is getting involved in logistics, and you start with the traffic manager, for example, and then he has to go up to his VP, and then his VP goes up to the CEO, there's stuff that's getting lost in the mix, right? It's that broken, to me anyways, I see it as a broken telephone situation. So if you start at the top, and the CEO or the CFO or the CXO or the COO or the vice president of sales is interested and says, wow, this is a solution, this logistics provider is a solution, running on the fact that when we did the survey, they all said we can't be wrong. So now, okay, listen, here you go, talk to this person. I feel And again, everything is perspective, and we all have our own perspective, so it's personal. But I truly feel this is the route that's going to get you the most results in 2020. What are your guys' thoughts?
Absolutely, no question about it. Absolutely, you have to start at the top, because they will filter you down. They'll send you to the one that has the decision-making power, the one that has the power to sign the check. That's who you're going to talk to.
Absolutely, Catherine, you hit it on the head there, and I think even deeper than that. Good morning, Jeff. I think even deeper than that, Dan. You touched on something that was great. That I think when we go to that level, sometimes, especially, so you have to be careful, and I think that's where Catherine and Dan will be able to help you out. But there's different language. There's different. It's a different mindset that a CEO has. A different. It's almost like they're looking at a different game. If you think of this as football, and it's the coach up in the box. They're looking at something totally different and getting a different view than somebody in the heat of it. And so when you can really bring them in, and they know, they're answering not from relationships, not from anything else. They're just answering from the numbers that they're seeing. You know what I'm saying? From the top level, and they're just we need that help. Like, if numbers are bad, we need help.
And also I see it as, and again, if any traffic managers are watching, this isn't a trash on you at all. Like, this isn't a conversation that bashes you, but I see it as, the CEO has that 30,000-foot view of where he wants to he or she wants to take the company. The CEO, to me, sees more, is that visionary, because we know from being the ones in the trenches, being the ones digging the ditches, right? Like, how many ditches have I dug with customers who were traffic managers, who were VPs of logistics? Sometimes we can't see 10 feet in front of our face. So the 6 month, vision, the 6 month goal, all that, sometimes we just can't see it because we're so trapped in that, like, we're in the eye of the storm.
Yes.
And right now, with everything going on in our market, now they got Canadian, and you got to be vaccinated, and then no, you don't, and then yes, you do, then no, you don't, then yes, you do. And what else is coming down the pipe? What else is going to happen in this new year? I read an article this morning. China's implementing right now. They're saying we're going to become more sustainable in our own country. We're going to stop relying on other countries to help us live. And this is their huge mandate. And the Wall Street Journal had a huge article about it this morning. And it's like, that's a CEO's vision, and they come in, they say, okay, this is what we need to do. You're in charge of this. You're in charge of this. This is the mandate. This is the mandate. And it filters down. And if the person you're speaking to is someone, like, perfect example. And I know I'm jumping, but perfect example. Okay, DJ, you've been in logistics sales for years. I've been in it for years. How many times have you been on the verge of closing a deal, and then you get you know what, something's come up. I got a mandate that had to change. We got to stop. I'll contact you in a month. Like, I can't even tell you how many times that's happened. And that, to me, is because nobody above the person I was speaking to.
Yes.
I hadn't sold them on the idea, and
they might not even know. That's the thing. They might not even know.
They probably don't. And here's another thing. How many times have you had a prospect where you gone and talked to the prospect? You're like, oh my God, I'm on the verge. Like, okay, let me go sell it to my boss. And you're like, hold on, wait, whoa, time out. What? You got to sell it to your boss. And it's like, but no, let me sell it to your boss. It's like, no, I'll sell it to him. And in my head, I'm going, you can't, like, and no offense to him, but you can't sell it the way I can. Like, it's not going to come across the same way. So again,
in-home sales, so this is something that might be different for you, Dan, and Catherine. So in in-home sales, they call it Oneleggers. They call it selling a one-legger. So that's if the husband's there and the wife's not there. Look, you need both parties there. If it's a couple, they make all big decisions together. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Martin. And so it's it's the same idea.
Yeah, Jeff says truth. It is. So, Catherine, let's dive in here, because I think we had a 9-minute 28-second warm up here, so I think everybody understands the direction we're going on today's call. And you know what? Today is a big win. All of you watching, we're talking wins and losses Friday. Today is a massive win, and we'll get right into it. I think that's the first time we had two intros in one show. But anyways, so Catherine,
Yeah.
talk to us. What are some, I mean, besides, obviously we just probably laid the biggest ones on the table. What are some of the key benefits that you found on starting with the CEO and starting
Okay.
your sales process at the top of the top?
There are numerous benefits, but the biggest one is you're going to, number one, get to the one that has the absolute, no questions asked, decision-making power, who can sign that check. So you're going to shorten your sales cycle by weeks, perhaps even months, depending on the size of the product, service, or solution that you're selling. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, you've opened the door at the top. So he or she is going to direct you to the person that has that decision-making power. Now, I'm going to preface this with, over the years, I've had reps say, no, they're not going to be interested. And, there's no way I'm going to get in to see that person. Believe me, they will send you down to the person. It's not saying that you're going to get that CEO meeting. The CEO is going to direct you to the person. They're going to say, okay, contact Dan Deegan. So you can contact Dan Deegan and say, I was speaking with your CEO today and he's asked me to give you a call. Mm-hmm. You're going to listen. And the reason you're going to listen, excuse me, and I preface this again, I make it personal. If you're a kid at home and your brother and sister says, hey, take out the garbage, you're going to say, sod off, take it out yourself. But if your brother or sister says, Mom or Dad wants you to take out the garbage, you're more inclined to take out the garbage. You're more inclined to do what he says because Dad's going to say, did you take out that garbage? All right, not to say your product is garbage.
No, that's what I took from that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
No.
We got this garbage. We're just going right up the ladder now.
Yeah. This episode just went totally into the trash. Get it? All right.
But the thing is, you're going to be held accountable to that. Because I will guarantee you that CEO is going to say, hey, did you meet with DJ? Yeah. And you're going to say, no, I didn't have time. Why not? Because when you contact the CEO, you've got to speak their language. You've got to speak to their overall top desires and concerns. And we talked about this in the last show, right? Again, make it personal. If you're at home and your basement is flooding and your kid just fell out of their high chair and they're bleeding, and you've got to get to the airport in half an hour to pick up your relatives from Italy, and somebody comes to your door and they say, hi, we're selling brushes today, you're going to slam the door. But if somebody comes to your door and say, hi, we can pick up people from the airport for you, you're going to say, come on in. Because that's something that you're concerned with.
Yeah, you need help with.
Exactly. That is something. So you've got to speak their language, because CEOs only have two reasons for not meeting with you. They only have two fears. They will not meet with you. Excuse me. They will not meet with you if you talk lingo that they're not familiar with, because they don't want to look stupid. They won't meet with you if they sense that you're going to waste their time. So if you say, hey, I'm selling brushes, you've triggered my fear, you're going to waste my time, get out of here. They're not going to meet with you. But if I phone and say, hey, I can fix a flooded basement, come on in, I want to meet with you. So their overall top desires and concerns. Can you get my product to market faster? If you can do that, they're gonna let you in. Can you help me make my company run leaner and more efficiently? They're gonna let you in. Can you help me attract and retain employees that are going to come in early and stay late? Yeah, I can help you with that. Right? Can you help me increase my revenues? Yes. Can you help me maximize my corporate image? Can you help me look better in the industry? Of course. They're going to let you in. All right? But you've got to speak the language that they're familiar with. Because if I call in and I say, hi there, DJ, I'm Catherine Hollingsworth. I've been in the sales business for X amount of years. I've just identified myself as another sales rep who's slinging mud against the wall. saying what sticks, right? I've got to speak to what keeps you awake at night. That's got to be the first thing out of my mouth. Okay.
And you're so right. I agree. You touched on speaking their language. That's exactly you, we have to know the channels, and you have to know the channel you're talking to and know their language. Yeah, and yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to understand what's keeping them awake at night. You know,
Yeah.
What's his name? J. Paul Getty. I don't know if anybody knows that name, but during his time in the 1920s, he was the wealthiest man in the world. He was self-made, okay, a billionaire by today's standards. He said for every single decision he made, he only asked himself 3 questions. What's the worst thing that can happen? What's the best thing that can happen? And what's it going to cost me?
Those are 3 pretty good questions. It's going to give you an overall view of
He,
pretty much
he
anything
said
you
that's how
want.
he made his wealth.
Absolutely.
He only asked himself those 3 questions. And you could ask a CEO that. What's the best thing that could happen with our products and services? What's the worst thing? You can lay that out to a CEO.
Yeah.
But again,
And here's kind of part of what I see and what I'm hearing from it. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine. But I look at it and I say, if you're in anything, like on any level that you're selling, the only time people listen is when we touch on their desires and concerns,
of
right?
course,
Like if somebody calls you and says, "Hey, I got this really cool truck that I want to sell you," and you have no desire for a truck, it's going to be a waste of your time. But and this same thing when it goes to copywriting and sales pages and all this kind of ads on social media when you're scrolling, the things that we see and the things that catch our attention are the things we're tuned into. And
exactly.
I think this dovetails so well into the second part of this, which is why so many salespeople are afraid to contact the CEO. And there's some that aren't, and some say no matter what, I start at the top. No matter what happens, I start at the top. But there's this. I can tell you from personal experience. Prior to taking your course, I would have never in a million years thought to contact the CEO. Never.
Yeah,
I would be like, because I thought, not a chance. They all have MBAs. I'm a grade 9 dropout. There's no way I can have a communication,
Yep.
even a conversation with these people. I had zero confidence in myself to do it. So maybe that's more of an internal thing, but from an exterior thing, it's like, no, there's no way. I mean, this person makes millions of dollars a year. I'm just starting in the business. I don't have and I think I did this probably up until like year 7 of my career or 8 of my career where I was like, no, I'm new. And it's like,
Yep.
I've seen reps now that are in the business 3 years. Take Ryan, for example, perfect example, 3 years. He's got the knowledge and foundation of somebody that's been in it over a decade. Right. And so I don't think that tenure in the industry based on who you are as an individual, what you decide you want to learn, if this is your career or job. I mean, there's many variables. That's probably a whole other show in its own. But why are people afraid? I mean, obviously the normal ones, but what have you found in your tenure of helping people overcome this fear of contacting the CEO? And share with us, because DJ and I love when you share this part of it, is, what are CEOs really afraid of? Because CEOs have fears just like us. We all put our
of
pants
course,
on one leg at a time, right?
of course, of course. So we went over the 2 fears the CEO has. Is that number 1, you're going to waste their time, and number 2, you're going to use language or jargon that they're not familiar with because they don't want to look stupid. And same with us. We don't want to contact CEOs because we don't want to look stupid. We don't want to look ill-informed. Well, the CEO doesn't want to look ill-informed, right? But as a sales rep, going back to what you said, I've had VPs of sales attend my seminars that have been doing this for 20 years, and they have never started with the CEO because they think they have nothing in common with them. But the vast majority of CEOs worldwide come from a sales background.
Yeah. I love that. You shared that last time, and that changed that. And the fact that one thing you mentioned last time we had you on the show and really opened my eyes was they're human just like us. Besides them coming from sales, they're human just like us, and we have to remember that, And I had the same block, Dan. I had the same block. Like, I don't know I don't know the right things to say. That
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna sound like an idiot to these people. No, I'm not.
Mhm.
I'm nobody compared to that. All of those things, all
Yep.
of those going through your head, just beating you up when you just like you said. There are other people that have the same concerns, maybe different level because they're on a different level. But
You know what
Well,
I've
the biggest
also
one
I
is
can
have
say
nothing
when
in
I
common. Sorry, go ahead.
what's that? No, go ahead, Catherine.
I was saying that is the biggest reason is that I don't have anything in common with the CEO, but the
Mhm.
majority come from a sales background. So my
so we
goodness,
do, yeah,
you have more in common with the CEO than anybody else in that whole company.
yeah,
You know,
You have
when
more
when
in
I
common with
when
the
I
majority. Sorry.
when I took your course and I started selling CEOs, the one thing it did is it got me very strategic on what benefits
yeah,
and solutions that I bring to the table, because you have to be very succinct on the conversation. And I know you and I are going back and forth, twice, three times daily now, Catherine, where we're like, what's the
Yeah.
value here? What's the value there? And it really, to me anyways, it really gets you creatively thinking about your product, service, solution, like what it is, because
yeah,
you have to hit these points and you have to hit them fast with a CEO. Traffic manager, you might be able to get away with a little bit of babble. You might be able to get away with a little bit of
Yeah.
hmm
maybe. I mean, today's day and age, they probably don't have time for that
oh man,
either.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's like, what's the value? What is it going to bring? Here's the value of my and here's the thing for sales reps watching and listening. When you sit down and do this exercise and say, like, what is it? Like, what is the value I bring? Because if you're going to contact the CEO, you have to bring value based on their top desires and concerns, right?
Yep.
What is it that I bring to the table based on these top desires and concerns? That alone is a practice as a salesperson where it's like, wow, it opens your eyes and you're like, holy crap, okay, I don't have an answer for that. So what do? We go out to customers and we say to customers, okay, if I were to ask you what value I bring in X, Y, and Z scenario, what would you say? And we
Yeah.
get those answers. And here's what happened to me, and I can only speak from personal experience. And DJ, I don't know if you've ever done something like this before in your business, like if you decided to step up to that C-level only contact. But what it did for me is it proved to me that I got some worth. Like I'm a key part of people's getting their product to market, meaning them making money, meaning the company being profitable, and I'm a key player in the consumer's goal achievement. And that to me was the biggest thing that I took from that exercise was you
Mhm.
start speaking to them and you're like, oh my gosh. And then you use those key like points or bullet points, if you will, whatever, in your sales to CEOs. And
Yeah.
hmm
just that exercise can change your business. Like
Yep.
just that
yes.
exercise.
Oh,
And you go with it.
I agree, Dan. Yeah, I agree completely. When I added that and started going a little bit higher, I started to notice. Yeah, hold on, these, they have, yeah, they have different focuses, but they're more. Catherine, would you agree? I mean, I'm sure from all of us have talked to more CEOs than any of us, but would you agree? I mean, CEOs, it's like, so there is a scientific name to what you were talking about, Dan, and they mentioned it in one of the books I was listening to, where if you're looking at that whatever Ford truck you're looking for, now every time you see it on the road, you start to notice it,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
that whatever that thing is. But and I feel
You know what?
like
It's funny. My wife and I were
CEO,
just talking about that this morning. Just
see,
this morning, we were talking about the same thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
and
I'll remember
CEOs,
it, but
I
go
think
on, DJ. I'll remember it. But yeah.
CEOs, I think they're just very good problem solvers, and they, at least the good ones, seem like they're just very good problem solvers. They make it very simple. It's okay. They have the key points like you talked about: revenue, my making my employees show up on time, whatever is the black or red number that they're looking at. They kind of just hone in, and they're very simple, and they
Yeah.
don't need all the fluff that the other things do. They just need,
No, no,
That
they are
that
very
right there
focused.
is the key.
They are
yeah,
laser focused, laser
yes,
focused. They have complete tunnel vision on their strategy.
Yeah.
Complete. And anything outside of that, they're not even going to. They're not even.
That's how they could shut you off so fast, like you were saying.
Exactly. Because they have to be.
They
have to be critical thinkers. They have to be strategically and laser focused. If they're not, it's like a domino effect. Okay. So another thing, and I've done this, I don't know if I did it when you were in the class, Dan, but if you're not sure what areas of expertise the CEO is looking for, phone their executive assistant, because the CEOs freaking hate the phone. They do. I can tell you that right now. They hate the phone for cold call. They hate it. Okay. Email, love. They love it because they can take their time.
Yeah.
They go on at night or early in the morning, and they can take their time. But phone the executive assistant and say, what areas of expertise are qualifying for a meeting with the CEO? And they will tell you. I promise you, they will tell you.
I'm so glad you shared that. You mentioned that last show as well, and that question alone, I think, really opens a lot of doors.
Yeah, they'll
just
tell you.
That.
Yeah.
So here's one thing that when you guys were saying that popped in my head here. So, CEOs, they have specific things they're focused on, and they can only focus on that, right? And everything else, they got tunnel vision.
Oh, yeah.
Every salesperson watching, you're the CEO of your own business.
Yeah.
So
Bingo.
if you take that same mentality and flip it and say, okay, I am focused on this, and this. These are the 3 things that I bring to market. And then you take those 3 things or 4 things or 5 things. Try not to go above 5 because then it tends to get a little complicated. But you're the CEO of your business. And if you only focus on those 3 things and you say, okay, let's use 3. Every CEO you contact, here are my 3 main things that I achieve for customers. If you're both in the same tunnel, you're going to see each other and things are going to happen. And what you see, what you think about, you see more of, right? Like it's that whole car thing that you were like. So what you're focused on, you see more of. And if you are in their focus, that's great. You're golden because now you've got the fast track. You're going to have the tunnel vision. You're going to be 2 racehorses running down the track together, closing those timelines, right?
Yes.
If you're not, that's great too, because you move on, because you're not in that wheelhouse of what that company's looking for. Here's your superpower. Here's what they need. That's what they're looking for. If those superpowers and their needs align, you've got a golden relationship. If not,
you brought up a good thing too, Dan, about lining up pretty quick. You can, I think, going to that level too. You can line up pretty quick, and most CEOs aren't going to be the nice shipping manager that is just stringing you along because they're just too nice to tell you to F off. Like the CEO, if you're not aligning, you're going to know.
Yeah, immediately.
Wait, you're wasting my time. This is not what I need. Next, and and that's good. That's good. That's what you need.
Well, I contacted a CEO the other day. Just quick story here, DJ. Sorry, I contacted the CEO the other day. He says, "You know what? I'll connect with you, no problem." He goes, "But I'm not interested in the program." And sent back one. Said, "Okay, perfect, no problem, understood." If I may ask, for me, from more market research, why are you not interested? And he says, 95% of my team is already at where you're saying you can get them to.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that's a bonus. Now, some people might say, "Oh, it's a lost customer." No, because what my mission is not able to help him. So why would I want to waste any more time trying to sell him sell him something he doesn't need? It's like that whole "I sell ice to Eskimos." Well, you're an asshole because Eskimos don't need ice.
Yeah, they don't need ice. They got a lot of it under them.
They got a lot of it. Maybe they need something to cut it out with, but they don't need ice.
You reminded me of something. Even if they don't need your product, service, or solution, most CEOs, I would say 98% of them, belong to CEO peer groups.
Yes. Yes.
And while
they might know, and so always open up, do you know somebody who could use it? Yeah.
Exactly. And they'll say, "Hey, you know what? I need help with ice." They're going to say, "Hey, you know what? I had an email from Dan Deegan. He deals in ice. I'll get you his contact info."
That's true. Let's talk about some of these comments because we got tons of we got tons of cover coming in. So Jeff says, collaborate with key stakeholders. Traffic managers want to protect his position at all costs, for sure. Bringing them into the loop helps create long-term business relations as they realize you're on their side, not to remove them. I know I have been in their seat. So Jeff used to be a traffic manager, and it's not about removing the traffic manager.
No.
It's about just starting it a little higher up to maybe somebody has vision. And then, Catherine, you and I have spoke about, can you and your executive team join us for a meeting, and you collaborate everyone together. Very important.
Guys, think of it as a filter. It's like one of those filters that you shake, and if you're that tiny stone trying to get to the bottom, it's going to go through that top layer of the CEO, then it's going down, and they'll funnel you to the right place.
Yeah.
What are your potential customer present pain points? Pain is in the present and is much more powerful motivator than value in the future. 100%. Gary says the best customers I've ever had come from talking and befriending the receptionist. They are the gatekeeper. Make her your friend, and you will rule the world.
That's why you're a rock star, Gary. You're right.
Yeah. We talked about that. We talked about EAs and receptionists.
Yes.
Receptionists in the larger corporations are generally there until something better comes along. But in the smaller, when I say smaller, I'm talking about number of employees, not sales revenue. But in the smaller companies, they are the EA. They are the office manager, the receptionist, the gate, they're everything. Yes. So you're absolutely right, Gary. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Jeff even says, very true. And then Jeff comes back and says, sometimes logistics issues don't reach the level of the organization. They expect their VPs to jump in and resolve whatever it may be. You have to be cautious that you don't go over someone's head and possibly do. This actually brings up Jeff brings up a valid point, because this is what I thought. I thought this. Never has it happened in the years I've been selling. I thought, because Catherine, I don't know if you remember, but when I took your course, one of the first questions I asked you was, is this not going to piss off a traffic manager? Like in my particular world, and I can't tell you how worried I was that was going to happen. And I can tell you, out of the tens of thousands of CEOs that I've talked to in my, I think we're going on 17 years I've been selling to the C-level kind of thing. I've had traffic managers ask, why is it you went to the CEO? And all I did, I very simple. I just said, I just always start at the top. No offense to you or anyone. It's just sometimes your day does not allow a conversation to be had. But if I go up to the top, and my key value points that I bring to the table, the key things that I can help companies do and achieve, and the key pain points I can take away, if that meets your hierarchy level, like in the end, everyone answers to that person. Yeah. So I didn't mean to go, and I've never had a traffic manager say to me, yeah, well, you know what, screw off, I have no interest in dealing with you because of it. It was like, okay, I just had to ask, like, I'm here. Yeah. And I've said numerous times, not to mention, how many calls do you get a day? Like, if I was that, I can solve these problems. I have customer after customer after customer where their pain has been solved. If I called you and I was the 15th person that called you that day, wasting your time, would you even listen to me? And every single time they've said, no, I wouldn't. You're right. And so, Jeff, I see that concern 100%. In my personal opinion, it's never happened. So
I'll tell you a story. So this was a referral lead, actually, but it ended up being a top level. I think he was a VP. So he was up there. And it was just a referral, contacted him. He then pointed me to the right direction. Now, to Jeff's point, I think the guys that he pointed me to did not like that I was directed to them from him, because they never moved forward from it. But at the same time, then if the CEO or VP thinks it was a good idea to direct me there, but they don't think it is, then it's not the right customer you're looking for anyways, guys. And they probably aren't following a good chain of command to even realize that the VP or whoever is, because this situation specifically, I kind of got real deep information in it just because of the referral and the tight connection it was to the higher level. So I know that they were really hurting on cost, but that was not really that wasn't funneling in the right. I'm trying to say it in the right way without beating these.
So they kind of took it as you like what Jeff said. You went over their head and they were maybe had a little bit a chip on their shoulder about it, and said,
it came off that way, but I think they were also tied to who they had as they were using as their provider. And it was,
well, then you would have never got in if you started with them anyway. So
exactly.
Can I address that for Jeff? If you start any lower than the CEO, let's say you started with the traffic manager and then you went over their head, totally you have just euchred yourself and you'll never get back into that company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would be extremely offensive to anybody.
Yeah, starting at their level and they don't listen to you, so you go
and
up.
Then going up.
Now you're just being a dick.
I do not recommend that at all.
Yeah.
Starting with the CEO, if you're feeling a little insecure about not including the traffic manager, you can include them. Start with the CEO and say, would you and your traffic manager have November 12th free for a quick visit to discuss ways you could leverage our service to get your product to market faster?
And that is so smart. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Because
so
then
tie them in if you're feeling insecure. I'm so sorry. But here's my bottom line, okay? Just as a CEO is strategically focused and laser focused on their target, so must we become. We have to become laser focused. Yes. Because that traffic manager, as much as we love them, okay, they are not held accountable to shareholders. They are not held accountable to the board of directors. No. They are not held accountable for any bad press. Who is? The CEO. The CEO is held accountable for every aspect of that business. And I'm sorry, but I have a skin as thick as a rhinoceros. I do. Because I'm sorry you feel that way. Next.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at it, if we go back to you're the CEO of your own business as a salesperson, right? If your operations team has a mess up, and I know this is a very vague example, everyone, so don't trash me, but say your operations team screws up and you lose a customer out of it. Like, you're the one that takes the hit, right? Yeah. Like, I've said it numerous times, and I've had so many sales reps, I got problems with operations. I said, listen, like, you got to understand, if everybody doesn't, I don't believe anyone leaves their house in the morning or wakes up in the morning saying, man, I can't wait to screw this up today. Like, I don't think anyone does that personally. I don't think anyone does it. But when something happens, and as a commission sales rep, your income relies on retaining customers long term, and your operations team, something happens, whether it'd be like a group, like a central ops, where every customer turns into a number kind of thing, and you lose a customer, it's like they're going to come in tomorrow and make the same paycheck. You're not, because you've just lost that customer. So, that to me is the mentality I go into when I sell to a CEO, is that, their compensation is a direct result of how profitable the company is. And I mean, obviously, everyone watching and listening, there's different levels, right? If you're not a public company, that, there's all these levels. But in the end, I do believe starting at top. I believe if, because Jeff came back and said again, he says it's happened to him. Jeff was in that position where he felt somebody, it was like, hey, whoa, hey, and I agree with that. It does happen. I would say, if you're afraid of that as a salesperson, do what Catherine just said. Would you and your traffic manager, logistics man, just understand, like, exactly. And again, if you're going to do that, I would go even a step further and figure out, is the person a vice president of logistics? Are they a logistics manager? Are they a warehouse manager? Like, what is their title? Because if you call them a warehouse manager and they're a vice president of logistics that make the decision, you could actually piss them off by, you know what I'm saying? So there's all there, because we're like, listen, in every sales call, we deal with humans, we deal with egos, and we deal with different characters. And if you've ever managed a group of people, you'll know it's like, oh my gosh, some of them are like, 35-year-old babies, and other ones are like 21-year-old, like VPs. It's like there's so, I can tell you, there's so many people that I've spoken to say, I can't wait to become a manager, and they become a manager like, oh my God, I want to be a sales rep again. They just don't want to deal. They don't want to manage people, because people are very hard to manage. Like if you manage a group of people, all the characters, all the different egos, all the different temperaments, all the different, bad days. It's like, oh my gosh. And I think you can get into, here's the thing. I think in the end, and I'm sure everyone will agree, you can get into paralysis and not take any action by thinking, oh, well, what if this person gets pissed off? Or what if this?
Yes.
Just go do it.
Do
And
it.
have the
Just do it.
conversation of, and I'm sure, Jeff, you'll agree, because Jeff's been on both sides of the fence. Jeff's
Yep.
been on all
Yeah.
three sides of that fence.
Hi, Jeff.
Where it's like, okay,
Yep.
I understand you started at the top, why? Have a valid reason, not just because, but have a valid reason and, move on. And in the end, like DJ said, DJ, you hit the nail on the head, brother. If they don't, you probably don't want that customer long-term anyways.
Exactly.
Because if they won't listen to the CEO who said contact DJ and DJ will talk to you and DJ says I don't want to talk to you, if I call DJ, I wasn't getting it anyway, so move on.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I see Jeff saying I have thick skin too, just trying to help others. Absolutely, Jeff.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from. That's why I'm saying if sales reps don't want to offend anybody, tie them into the meeting.
Yeah.
Well, and in the end, I guess to really wrap this up, we preach it on the show all the time. I mean, if you still want to fight to that, you get those situations where somebody gets pissed off because you went above, and you still want that customer. I mean, you really weren't listening to us from the beginning. You want to find your ideal customer. If your ideal customer is that, then that's what you're looking for. But that's, at least for me, that's not my ideal customer. I want a customer or a client who is incongruent and in communication and, is following direction of the leader. Because in the end, the leader, the top guy knows, he sees exactly what is really going on.
And if a VP, so sorry, if a VP asks you why you didn't contact them, it's because you're a VP.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a CEO.
Yeah.
It's a VP.
Yeah. I hear it.
Okay. So
DJ, you want to? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Catherine. Go on.
Go ahead, Catherine.
I was going to say there's that old saying, and it's been proven. When you aim for an eagle, you hit a pheasant, and you don't eat crow. So when you go to the CEO probably is going to say, okay, you need to meet with whoever, so you fit your pheasant. If you go in below the CEO, you're going to risk increasing your sales cycle exponentially. Who knows how long? Because once you spend all that time with the traffic manager, then you know what? The traffic manager's left the company. He's moved on. She's moved on. So now you got to start all over again.
It's like I turned on last night when I was getting ready to wind down. I turned on American Sniper, and one of my favorite, that and Lone Survivor, two of my favorite movies. And it's funny because when Chris Kyle's going through sniper camp, the one comment he says, listen, aim for a button, you might miss by an inch. Aim for the chest, you'll hit the sky. And I think it's another way of saying what you said, where it's, that laser focus, that zero in on this target, you might come out here and there. But if you're just saying, okay, this is my generality that I'm going for, it doesn't. And, again, it goes, I think just that practice alone of going in and saying, okay, what are my key points? How can I think that will help any salesperson listening with their business. Because it'll really get them to understand. And listen, you might be like, I was, when I first did it, I was like, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know what my superpower is. And I don't know what my kryptonite is. And that's a very bad thing to not know, because, you're as Napoleon Hill says, you're a wandering generality. Like you're, or it was Zig Ziglar, where you're wandering generality, and so it's, yeah. So, anyways, I think we beat that situation long enough. DJ, you want to pull us out of here with a quote, brother?
Yes. Yeah. Well, hey, thank you again, Catherine, for joining us. And guys, if you do catch us later on YouTube, make sure and like and subscribe us. So this is Jamie Palanidi, and its limitations live only in our minds.
True.
But if we use our imaginations, our possibilities become limitless.
Love it.
Awesome.
Be limitless, guys. Have a great weekend.